Women who hit the mill jackpot. What does your mill do that makes her exceptional? She immediately accepted me and learned to love me just because her son did. She did everything in her power to make me feel welcome and supported. And when the wedding came around, found a good balance of offering help without being pushy, as her own mill had been a horror. That amount of unconditional caring is hard to find. We may not agree on everything, but she's second mom to me. This, my almost mill, we are getting married next spring, welcomed my mom with open arms at Christmas, and during her visit she said to my mom, not only does she have another daughter now that I'm marrying her son, but my mom is also gaining my fiancé and his sister as her son and daughter too, because we are one family now. She's a wonderfully genuine and generous person. She isn't just nice to me, my daughters, and her other daughter-in-law, but everyone she meets. She put an effort into being friends with my parents and my sister-in-law's parents. She learned sign to the point she can mostly interpret, because her high school was where deaf students were sent when they were integrated. She works in special ed for applicants because she cares about the well-being of those kids. She's compassionate, loving, and forgiving. Following a natural disaster in our area, she housed 2 families for a year. She's just a good person, and I'm glad my daughters have such a good grandmother to look up to. Edit. A couple of folks have mentioned my mother-in-law in an inspiring person, but there are women and men like her all over the place. You've just got to keep your eyes out. She's just an all-around awesome woman. She loves her kids and their spouses hard. She makes me laugh. She knows when I'm not okay. She calls me just to say hi. We hang out like friends. That's the kind of mill I aspire to be. She loved me unconditionally from the moment she realized how much her son loved me. She heaped praise and love on me. Never tried to manipulate me or my husband. She was just a heart on 2 legs. We miss her greatly. I'm sorry for your lose, but at least you had a good time with her. She drove up 6 hours from where she lives to our house to let my husband and I get some sleep and help with our daughter when she was a newborn. She's taken over the role as my mother when I don't have one myself. She's also incredibly sensitive about my traumatic childhood and does everything she can to understand me better. I wish that my mother could be like that for my husband. To say they don't get along would be laughable. They outright loathe each other. It makes it hard to be in the middle. But as it turned out, my mother made it easier for me. She drew a line and made me choose sides, and she wasn't happy with my choice. My mill is such a badass. When I first started dating her son, he had to cancel a date on me to go bail her out because she chained herself to a stop sign to protest post-Guantanamo Bay. Her rationale was that making the cops arrest a 70-year-old retired elementary teacher named Doris showed how ridiculous protest arrests were, and that now that she was retired and 70, she didn't need a clean arrest record anymore. Okay, I'm obsessed with Doris. I'm so grateful that my in-laws are super chill about me getting arrested at protests and occasionally dragging their son with me. My Phil was pretty radical back in the day though, so we all rant about politics together while my mill and I knit. It's amazing. She was legitimately my person. I had her as a mother-in-law and best friend for 13 years before she unexpectedly passed away. She was always willing to listen, even about her son, and someone who I always felt safe with, in the sense that whether I was going through hard things or tough times, or struggling mentally and sometimes lashing out, I knew that all of those feelings were safe with her. She cared for me and our son as a new mom, would do anything with me, including to run errands, go shopping, or just take a drive. She helped me with home improvement projects, picking out the right outfit, and cooked massive family meals. She healed my beliefs of what a mom should be like, and undoubtedly made me a better one. I think of her every single day and would give anything for another hug. She was there for me in my most difficult part of my life. She shared deeply personal things with me that her own children didn't, and still don't, know, to help me get through it. There was one seemingly daft moment when things just clicked for me how lucky I am to have a lady like her in my life, and that was shortly after my newborn had his vaccines and had the most horrendous blowout ever. MMR and rotavirus jabs can result in some shockers. We were visiting them, and I had taken Lo to the bathroom to change his nappy. I was sitting on the floor completely overwhelmed, and Mel popped her head around the door, as she has before, and kindly asked, "Do you need anything?" I just looked up at her, exhausted and defeated, and said, "I don't know what to do." She replied very simply with, "I'll get some towels." She stayed with me and guided me through how to deal with these things, offering great reassurance. She does things with a perfect balance of helping and not overstepping. She knows exactly when to be more hands-on and when to offer support while taking a step back and letting me do things myself. She is just an incredibly respectful person who does whatever she can to help and make you more comfortable. If I could be half the lady she is, I'd be incredibly proud. I've hit the mill jackpot twice. My first mill, now technically ex, called me after my ex-husband left me and our daughter. She said she didn't agree with what he had done and that we would always be family. It's been 15 years and she's still kept her promise by keeping involved in our lives and loving my new husband and children. My second mill has sadly passed away, but she was wonderful too. I was a 30-year-old divorced single mom when her 24-year-old son took me to meet her. Any mom might have been skeptical, but she totally embraced me and my daughter. The awesome thing is both of them share the same birthday. Mine is a sweet little Korean lady who sends me handmade gifts and who I can't really even communicate with in English. She's full of life and makes food for us when we visit. Our relationship is pretty surface level, but I really love her all the same. My situation is very similar to yours. My mill can't speak much English either, and I can only speak about shallow topics in her language. But the very first time we met, she pulled me in for a big hug and I knew it was gonna be okay. We share interests in travel and art and enjoy showing each other our recent creations. She's just a kind, open-minded and open-hearted lady. Just because a relationship lacks some depth doesn't necessarily mean it lacks quality. I could go on and on about this and that endlessly, but the biggest factor as to why I absolutely adore her is because she took my baby into her heart without any hesitation. It's my daughter, who I basically shoved, not literally of course, into her son's life. And she's loved her since the first time she laid eyes on her. That sealed the deal for me 100 times over because I was nervous to make an appearance way back in the early days of my relationship with my husband. I just assumed there would be judgment and she's been nothing but the sweetest thing to me. I love her. She told her son to treat me better. Unfortunately he didn't listen, and she died, so now I'm divorcing his lazy ass. Good for you. My mill is amazing. To the point that I feel guilty talking about all the awesome stuff she does. She is kind, caring, supportive, funny, and non-judgmental. She loves me like one of her own children and has helped us out so many times. We are both teachers. She is retired now, and she has helped me set up my classroom countless times as well as given me more school supplies than I can count. She loves unconditionally, and I can tell her anything. Out of her 3 actual children, I'm the favorite, but in all seriousness, she's always treated me well, been honest with me, supported us and our relationship, to the point she once said one of her worst fears was her son and I breaking up, taken the time to forge a relationship between us instead of just through her son, my now husband. I even call her Ma, and have done for a few years. I think it started as a joke, but she loves it, and as we've just had a baby she's now a grandmother, which she is so delighted about. She's been great with giving advice and support, and her only regret is that she works full-time and has a side business that she can't be here more often at the moment. But luckily she only lives 15 minutes away. She had a bad mill when my husband and later his brother were born, and she's therefore determined to not repeat history. She and my father-in-law are just A+ people. My mill is the type of person to ask all about you when you first meet her, and she will listen to you with genuine empathy and understanding. She has many people she calls her bonus family because she loves and accepts all kinds of people when they have no one else. According to my husband, she always made sure that the kids' friends were welcome at their house, and they always had an amazing snack drawer. Whenever we come over with her granddogs, she always has a hamburger patty for each of them. She's the kind of mom I want to be. My mill is the same. She keeps leftovers for her granddog and makes baggies of sauces so she can pour it in her kibble. She even calls herself grandma when she talked to our dog lol. She made an effort to know me and let me be me non-judgmental amazing super grandma she is. She's a wonderful woman who loves me as a daughter. She's always praying for. I'm not a believer in Hinduism, but the thought is wonderful. We have never met in person due to Panini, but she always takes my side over my husband lol. When we got married, she cried because she couldn't give me a necklace that Marathi married women receive. I'm not Indian, but she hasn't treated me any different than my own mom. She also tells me that all her jewelry will be mine when she passes. I'd rather have her, but I thank her anyway. Don't get me wrong. I love my Mill, but the woman has no filter sometimes, so I get why her other dolls are not always around. However, I think she's an awesome person. We got to know each other pre-me dating her son and she loved me back then, and adores me even more now that I make her son happy. She is very opinionated, but we established mutual respect and boundaries very early on, and she won't break them. She may dance around them sometimes, but I know I could potentially call her out if needed, and I have. Her opinions are very much based on the culture and time she grew up in, so I've always taken my time to explain how that just doesn't work nowadays, and I'm beyond grateful of how she raised her kids cause I feel like I hit the jackpot with a man that is secure in his manhood and always happy to help out. She showed up 2 days before the wedding and handmade about 500 piragi for the rehearsal dinner. A month later she showed up and made another 500 for my mother's funeral. She raised her only son out of 6 to be respectful, kind, polite and generally a nice guy. Never made me feel unwelcome despite being the second wife. Gave me the coveted French onion soup pot and the recipe, although all the daughters got that too. She was so nice and funny when I first met her, was flabbergasted when I called her ma'am, ordered a huge margarita at Chili's, and went shopping at Marshall's with us where she told me that red was my color, and she was amazing ever since then. She's not my Mill yet, but she's super nice and sweet, and always has been. She's very respectful of boundaries and our relationship, even wanting to have grandkids by her son. She's okay with us being child free. She's also an amazing cook and always sends stuff for me when she can. Honestly, their entire family have accepted me immediately in a way I wish I could say the same about mine. She actually didn't like me at first, mainly because she didn't trust me since I was so quiet. I had just come from a traumatic relationship and this was my first one after. I'm also slow to warm, so that didn't help, and I thought she was snobby. She is also slow to warm / likes to observe before joining in a conversation like me as well. But my fiance's family lives 3 hours away, so when we went to visit we had lots of time together where she couldn't avoid me and I couldn't avoid her lol. We got to know each other. She saw how I treated her son. She saw me for me. She treats everyone around her with kindness. She really has a huge heart. She would give you the shirt off of her back. She is so incredibly selfless and asks for nothing in return yet strong. I now think of her as another mom. I genuinely love her and she loves me. She is also currently helping my mom, my best friend and I to plan my baby shower over Zoom since she can't be here in person. She lives about 1,000 miles away. She gives us space, support when we need it, and leaves us alone the rest of the time. I see her maybe once a year, and when she is around, she's kind, loving, and wants nothing but the best. I'm not married, so I can't speak to having a Mill, but my mother says that she couldn't have had a better Mill than my paternal grandmother, God rest her soul. My grandmother was hands off, meaning that she didn't interfere in my parents' relationship or how my parents raised me and my sister. Both my grandmother and my mom were very respectful of each other and their ideas about how to raise children. And one very important thing, my dad knows how to, and did, set boundaries. My FMIL reminds me a lot of Gloria from Modern Family. Confident, beautiful, Hispanic woman who doesn't take S from anyone. Had my BF at 19 and is sort of just now settling down. So she still has a wild, but much more responsible streak to her. Loves her son, but is pretty hands off with him now that he's an adult. Rarely gets involved with his life unless he asks her to. She's been nothing but friendly and welcoming to me. Invites me to every family thing and treats me like I'm her daughter-in-law already. She's also hilarious. Sometimes unintentionally. I just really like being around her. One of my favorite memories of her is seeing her for the first time as her son's girlfriend. My BF and I have been friends since high school, and she hadn't seen me in years. I had lost a lot of weight since the last time she had seen me, and when my BF was like, "Mom, you know house off return. We are dating now." Her jaw literally dropped, and she was like, "I midja, you changed your hair. It's long now." My BF and I just started dying laughing. It was really sweet how she tried not to make my weight a thing.